Hello, good morning to you, our Camnet TV viewer. This is the Breakfast Show, a show that comes to your screen every morning from 07 hours to 09 hours, where we discuss a lot of important things happening in our economy. We are so excited to know that you have made it to 2023 along with us. We crossed the river. It wasn't an easy undertaking and a task, but we thank God we are still alive. And this morning we are discussing very important matters pertaining to what is happening in the country. Current affairs is what we are discussing, and we'll be hosting a very prominent politician on stage today. He is not new to the set, so we look forward to engaging with you. We will open our phone lines where we will allow you to call, make those contributions, make those submissions. Let's get to make Zambia a better place. I always emphasize when I come on this program that the development of Zambia lies in you, the viewer. You might not know, maybe your contribution or your submission is what the country needs for it to recover fully, even as we talk about economic recovery. I am your host this morning, Prudence Chota, and of course I am joined by a beautiful natural lady seated adjacent to me who will introduce herself and greet you, the viewer, this morning. Madam Lady, good morning.
I'm chuffed by the introduction. Good morning to you, our today, and I hope you are ready to participate in our topic, where we're going to be seeing whether the UPND has actually actualized on its promises. So among the key issues are the issues of load shedding. We have as well as the performance of the Zambian kwacha, and really what are your prospects for 2023? What would you like to see the government doing and actually promising, maybe carrying through with their promises, because we've seen that in 2021 the UPND was stating that no, they just assumed office in August, but we saw that the full year of 2022 they were in office. What did they achieve? What were their failures? What were their successes? And what would you like to see in 2023? So as soon as we open our phone lines, we expect you, our viewers, to participate in the topic and give us your views on what we will be discussing.
Of course, Madam Lady, there is Zipporah Mushala. You know, you hear do a lot of reports, but in case you're tuning into Camnet TV for the first time, this is Zipporah Mushala. The word you hear, Zipporah Mushala. I think even kids in homes imitate her because she is quite a kind of a reporter to admire in this industry. So before we bore you with too much talking, we are going to go into our morning boost this morning. It is important for you to exercise so that you keep health. Remember, a healthy nation relies on its healthy people. So this morning, let us go into the morning boost and exercise along with us.
Hello, 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 hello. It's your boy Harrison, aka the Fitness Puppy, here at Chon's Fitness in conjunction with the Camnet TV. Remember, you can get your fitness attire here and here. So guys, today I'm taking you in aerobics. We can go now, a 2-minute aerobics, okay? Okay. Ready? 3, 2, 1, then you start. Keep going. So after this, you do the one-hand jumping jacks. Get ready? 3, 2, 1, let's go. This side. Okay. Keep going. Get ready. 3, 2, 1, we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You switch this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we're done. Woo! So guys, today we are going to do a deadlift. Yeah, and also I'm going to mention the parts the deadlift works on. So I'm going to do a 2 times. Okay. So I have my 30 kg here. So slowly you move close to your barbell. Okay. So you bend all the way like this. We go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3 more. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, I've done 8, and I would like to tell you the parts the deadlift works on. Actually, the deadlift is a full body workout. It works on your core, the arms, the lower back, hamstring. Okay, so this is what you do when you want to perform a good deadlifting exercise. So you hold the dumbbell, move close to your barbell here like this, then all the way, try as if you are pushing the ground away. Then when you reach here, you push your glutes forward as well as chest out. So this motion helps you with the core. Then drop it down. So mind you, let's take for instance you are using an overloaded barbell. So the advice I can give you, it's when you take it up like this. So instead of you going down all the way like this, so when it reaches here, then you go for another lap. You go for another lap. For this kind of action really helps you for your lower back here. Okay, let me do the last one. I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, one more, and 10. Okay, that's it for today. You've been with me, Harrison, aka the Fitness Papi, here at Chons Fitness in Kablonga. Remember, you can also get your fitness attire here. Bye bye.
That was our morning boost this morning. I hope you have exercised along with us. But if you are unable to do that this morning due to certain commitments, this program is being streamed live on our Facebook page. When you knock off in the evening, just before you go to bed, you can go to this particular segment, exercise, ensure that you are healthy all the time. We care about you as Camnet TV. That's why if you cannot afford to go to the gym, we bring the gym in the comfort of your home. That's what we do because we care about you, and we care about Zipporah to ensure that she maintains
I actually made a resolution saying this year, I'll stop eating all the fast food, I'll start, exercising. So new year, new beginnings.
Of course, new year comes with new
I'm also
things.
going to actually follow that morning boost when I go home. Definitely.
Do that, Zipporah.
And talking about fitness, we also have something else which is of interest, and that is health. So every day we bring to you the health corner just to let the doctors give you some health tips which you should not just listen to but actually put into practice. So let's hear what the doctors have for us this morning.
Hi, good morning and welcome to today's segment, health segment on the breakfast show. I am Dr. Nakuya Namfaya. So this week we have been discussing about malaria, and yesterday we talked about some of the ways that malaria is treated in the hospital. We talked about malaria can be treated and that you need to seek treatment early to avoid getting complications. So what are some of the complications that malaria can come with? So malaria causes several complications, and I will highlight some of the complications that malaria can present with. One of the most common complications that people with malaria have is cerebral malaria. And cerebral malaria can present in many forms. Some people might have altered mental status, and by that we mean they might present with confusion and saying things that are not making sense, and that's because their brain has been affected. Patients with cerebral malaria can also have seizures. So somebody might start fainting because they have malaria, and malaria has not yet been treated. So it's important that you understand some of the complications so that when patients present with these complications, then you know that their malaria has become severe. Some of the other complications include malaria can affect the lungs. It can cause patients to have difficulties in breathing. It can cause patients to have edema in the lungs, where there's an accumulation of fluids in the lungs. Malaria can also cause complications in the kidneys. It can cause renal problems, and so it's important that you get treatment early. Some of the other complications are that malaria can cause anemia, and if the anemia is not treated, patients who have symptoms of anemia, they will have dizziness and all the other symptoms that come with anemia. Malaria can also cause one to have low blood sugar. And so if you have malaria, patients with malaria will usually have low appetite. But because of that, the infection also is going to be using up a lot of energy in the body, and it will cause them to have low blood sugar. And if that low blood sugar is not treated promptly, it can take someone's life very quickly. Malaria can also cause yellowing of the eyes, and this is because it causes an increase in the destruction of the red blood cells. And when the red blood cells are destroyed in the body, there's a chemical called bilirubin that is released, and it causes the yellowing of the eyes. Malaria can also cause liver problems. It can cause the spleen to be affected, and it can cause a large spleen. And so these are just some of the complications that patients with malaria would present with. On the other side, malaria can affect patients that are pregnant. So if you are pregnant, make sure that you go for your antenatal and make sure that you are given malaria prophylaxis to prevent you from having malaria. Because in pregnancy, malaria can cause miscarriage in the first trimester if it is not treated. It can cause fetal problems. The child might not grow well in their womb, and there might be other complications. You might have a small child. The child might be small when they are born because of malaria. So it's important that you understand some of the complications of malaria and that you need to get treatment as soon as possible. So this is what we are learning today. We're learning that malaria can cause many complications. It can cause complications in the brain, in the lungs, the kidneys, the liver. The blood itself might be reduced. So it's important that you get treatment early, and even in pregnancy, make sure that you go for your antenatal and ask for treatment of malaria if you have any symptoms of malaria. So that's the end of today's segment. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have learned something. Be sure to watch again tomorrow, same time, here on Camnet TV on The Breakfast Show. Thank you.
That was our morning boost this morning. I hope, pardon me, now I'm going to morning boost because I was exercising before the show. That was the Doctor's Corner, and I hope we have followed what the doctors were actually telling us this morning. It might not necessarily be that you have a challenge in your body or the things that have been mentioned, but along the way you might actually experience some of this, and they say experience sometimes is the best teacher. But you will remember that, I heard the doctor say something on Camnet TV, let me do this, let me do A, B, C, D. We care about you, the viewer. That's why we just don't give you news. We just don't give you content. We also go deep into the things that affect you by bringing you the morning boost, and also the Doctor's Corner, where the doctors come to talk about different illnesses that we live with on a daily basis. So I hope we have learned one or two things from what the doctor was saying this morning. Remember, your health is your wealth. Even a wealth nation relies on its health people. The countries that you are seeing do well today have actually invested in their health sector, and as a result, they have a healthy people. Of course, there's no country that Zipporah completely has people who are
yeah, but at least we complement each other where we can, and I'm glad that Zambia's health sector is actually, going forward, because we now have a lot of specialized hospitals who are going towards the right direction. I was being happy, is it 2 years ago, where someone, a famous musician from Malawi, was being brought to Zambia. I'm like, oh, so people actually have confidence in our health system. And one takeaway really from the doctors is really, I like the fact that they always, remove the myths, because, as people always have these myths of how to treat certain diseases, but they always, dispel the myths and tell us the correct way of treating various diseases. For example, when we talk about burns, they told us, no, don't put butter. You've always been taught, put butter, do this and that. So I think the Health Corner is really helpful to all of us. And moving on, before we go any further, let's talk about money. How is our kwacha performing this morning? Let's say our kwacha is performing this morning on 5th January 2023. So we have the United States dollar. They are buying at 18 kwacha 01 way, selling at 18 kwacha 36 way. The euro, they are buying at 19 kwacha 11 way, selling at 19 kwacha 49 way. The South African rand buying at 1 kwacha 07 way, selling at 1 kwacha 09 way. The Great British Pound buying at 21 kwacha 71 way and selling at 22 kwacha 13 way. So I'm sure our interest is on the US dollar. There it's on 18 on the buy and the selling side.
Wow. People when I just saw many markets pop up, I'm like, oh, wow. This is where we are heading. have a lot to do.
I saw some jokes on social media saying the kwacha cannot go into a bar. It's an adult, you know, it's on 18.
Oh, yeah.
So, really, as some are saying, have we not yet reached 14 hours? The 14 hours we're not supposed to see the kwacha reduced. But anyway, that's our kwacha for this morning. And I just hope that maybe by the end of 2023, we'll at least see it reduced maybe to 10 kwacha.
I don't know if that's possible to 10 kwacha Zipporah, but we need to have a strong currency. A strong currency, rather not even strong, but a stable currency, plays a very important role in the development and the recovery of the country. We did see our currency stabilize at a particular time, becoming one of the best performing currencies in Africa and even around the world. A lot of praises were given to this administration for doing that. But the end of December, we've seen something different. And I think I said this on the show last week and the other week when I interacted with the governor, the Bank of Zambia governor. He did mention a lot of factors are contributing to the depreciation of the Zambian kwacha. Among them, the lack of concluding on the issue of the country's debt. The governor did say a lot of people are still holding on to resources and cannot invest because they are not certain of what the outcome will be. Another reason was attributed to the fact that December, there is a lot of demand for goods from outside. Remember, Zambia is an import-dependent country. We import more than we export. So as a result, most of the things we export are minerals, and during that particular period, a lot of companies were closed and industries that buy from us. So as a result, there was too much demand for imports than we are exporting. As a result, it put some pressure on our local currencies, leading to the depreciation. So we are hoping now that this festive season is done. We are in 2023. January, of course, we need to start seeing some things kicking in to it that our local currency begins to perform better. Remember, if we are an import-dependent country also, we can't afford to have a weak currency because that is a problem. Then also our economist last week, Trevor Ambai, did mention to the fact that we have a situation where our suppliers and contractors are not paid. They are owed in excess of $2 billion United States dollars by the government. You can't fail to pay your contractors and you expect to have liquidity in the economy. So as it stands, we have no liquidity in our economy because the private sector and other institutions do not have resources. Government is still holding on to the resources. So I hope even January, as it has come, our government will do what it needs to do by paying some of these local contractors and suppliers so that we have some resources in circulation. And I also spoke to some marketeers last week, these street vendors. They equally confirmed Zipporah to say we actually don't have money. And I was surprised to see that even those who do such business do understand when we have no money in circulation. Like I didn't really think they would understand the economic sentiments. But immediately I spoke to some of them, the first thing they said is, "But sister, there is literally no money in circulation." And you know, this is someone who's just street vending and they're able to feel the inch that there is actually no money in circulation. So I hope moving forward, the government will do something to cushion this impact by releasing some liquidity in our economy. And I think that will give us slight balance in how our local currency is performing.
Quite interesting there. And just now we officially open our phone lines. So do call in and participate in our topic of discussion this morning. And just before we bring our guests, we're going to take a look at a story that we did yesterday where there are some online taxi drivers who are in conflict with the Ministry of Transport and Logistics. So these online taxi drivers, mostly belonging to Yango, have been asking for the prices to actually be hiked and not benefiting. They've been saying that only the customers and the app owners.
Is it even true that they are not benefiting?
They're saying
maybe that they are used to exploitation. I don't know. Maybe because like for Ulendo, I know they do charge per kilometer that you cover. They charge about 10 kwacha. That's their charge. Maybe for Ulendo, before we even come to this negotiating that they're doing, how much do they charge per kilometer? If maybe a liter of fuel as it stands now is at about 24 kwacha per liter. So for them, how much kilometers would you cover in that 1 liter? And how much will it cost you? Maybe if we did those calculations, we would actually know where we are heading to. But another interesting thing about this protest with these drivers, Zipporah, is that when you're doing a business, you need to legalize your business. Are they registered?
That's one thing.
Are they paying to PACRA? Are they paying their contribution to NAPSA?
Do they have PSVs or do they just have
because as it stands, they are just masquerading as taxi drivers. Because if you are not yet registered as a legitimate taxi driver, even being on Yango is risk. So what measures are you using for you to be registered on that app so that we don't have actually people to exploiting others? It's a win-win situation. So I think even as they look to advocating that the price be increased, they should ask themselves these questions. Are they legitimate taxi drivers? Are they registered in that particular business they're doing? Are they paying what they're supposed to pay? Does PACRA recognize their presence, or it is pirating but you're looking for demanding what you don't really understand? But then when we hear their grievance, if at all it is true, they are using their vehicles. Remember, it's very difficult, it's very expensive to maintain a car. So you can't afford to be using your vehicle and actually make scrap at the end of it.
Yeah, but sometimes again, the prices are not realistic. For example, you can come from Kawe to Lusaka. You in a Rosa bus, you pay 90 kwacha. You book a taxi there at Intercity to your home, you pay 200 kwacha. So you ask them, like, look, I'm from Kawe, I pay 90 kwacha. Here I'm paying 200. Because some people have been saying there's this exploitation that
that's argument for another day. But let's zoom into that story that made headline in our news yesterday so that you understand what is it that we are talking about. Then also this issue of load shedding. How is it that it is affecting you? For 2 days now, I was complaining I've not watched TV in my house because when I knock off, there's literally no power. When I sleep, I wake up, I find there's power. Before I can even finish what I'm doing, power is not there. So I was even talking about that. But before we get to discuss that, let's zoom into the story that made headline in our news yesterday, where the online taxi drivers were actually protesting, demanding that the price at which they are operating should be increased. Let's see that story that made headline in our news yesterday.
When you call a meeting, they say you can choose wherever you want to go. What kind of a means is that?
Yango to do whatever they want.
We don't want Yango.
Yango do whatever you want.
We don't want That is the answer. There's no association, but we are the drivers clients. The one the food soldiers.
How are we going to feed our family?
We are the food soldiers. We are the ones.
Is that
It's not fair for sure.
The answer is that
But today, you say national money for us to go there. Yes. Where should we go as drivers? That's the question we are asking. Yes. He hasn't attended any issue.
Commotion characterized what was meant to resolve the protest of low prices by Yango online taxi drivers. After a long period of knocking at the door of the Ministry of Transport, calling for it to come to their aid and address some of the challenges alleged they were facing, among them low prices, security, while citing taxi hailing online company service Yango of being a major culprit. Online Taxi Drivers Association of Zambia were assured by the Minister of Transport and Logistics, Frank Tayali, that a legal framework was being worked on to bring sanity in the online taxi service. Speaking when he addressed Online Taxi Drivers Association of Zambia and other stakeholders in the transport sector, the minister advised against the issue of being personal when addressing sensitive issues.
So what my ministry committed, my ministry shall do. That legislative framework, that statutory instrument that is supposed to regulate everybody, bring about a level playing field, that we are going to do.
The minister also indicated the benefit of fair prices to commuters.
Important that as Zambians, let us not use emotions, because emotions will not take us anywhere. And this advice goes especially to Otas, who at one point even went to write to His Excellency the President, alleging that perhaps this minister may have an interest in Yango. And that letter was brought back to my minister. And everybody was saying, but minister, are you not going to respond to this? I said, I do not respond to rumors and innuendo. It was not worth responding, because that's not what we are here for. We are here to impartially look at our country and how best we can save our fellow citizens. especially the common citizen, who today is saying it has now become affordable to jump on a taxi.
And Yango, which has been at the center of it all through its country manager Kabanda Chewe, says the company is complying with local regulations and that they are not biased in respect with fares.
Not disadvantage anybody. Anybody that drives using the app will still earn. The pricing information.
Unsatisfied with the response given by the minister on the issue, Online Taxi Drivers Association of Zambia had no kind words for the minister, with them alleging that he was siding with the online company. During his earlier address, the minister had also directed the online taxi drivers to other ministries to address other issues they had presented in their petition, such as terms and conditions of drivers and security issues, but the directive was not received well and added more salt to the wounds.
Get from him. No, this is not right. This is not right.
Do you think the government is on your side?
I don't think so. I don't think so. As citizens of Zambia, I don't think so, because he is in the government. He has to support us.
Miriam Kemba reporting for Camnet TV News.
There you have it. Online taxi drivers yesterday did meet with the Minister of Transport and Logistics, Frank Tayani, and the issue is with regards to the pricing. They feel aggrieved by the fact that Yango has made it cheap for them to operate. What they're earning does not tally with what they are putting in. I don't know if you do agree with that. For you who's been using their services, perhaps maybe they are right, perhaps maybe they are wrong. It's not up to us to judge. For us is to ensure that we give the right information to you, the viewer, balance it, and let's see where we go moving forward. So that was the meeting they had yesterday. So we are going to dive directly into our interview this morning, and we are discussing, is the UPND government living up to its promise? This is, of course, the breakfast show on a Thursday, where we look at policy issues and a lot of aspects happening in our economy. Our guest on the program is a seasoned politician who's not new to the screen. He was the Secretary General at one point for the Patriotic Front before he branched off to form his own party, Rainbow Party, which he later rebranded into Economic Front Party. The Economic Front Party President, WYNTER KABIMBA. He's in studio with us this morning. Sir, good morning.
Good morning, and good morning, viewers.
We are so glad that you can actually join us on set today to discuss a lot of pertinent matters that are happening in our economy.
Thank you.
And just a reminder to our viewers that you can join in the conversation. We have officially opened our phone lines. Give us a call on the numbers that are scrolling on your screen, or leave us a message on Facebook as we discuss various national matters. And so maybe just to begin, Mr. Kabimba, what is the ideology? What ideology does the Economic Front believe in?
What is our ideology? Our ideology is the Zambian people. Our ideology is to ensure that the Zambian people are at the center of the development of this country. Our ideology is to ensure that the development agenda of this country is driven by the Zambian citizens themselves. Our ideology is socialist oriented to that effect. So we believe that the people that have been endowed by these resources by God must be the one to exploit these resources. They must be the one to benefit from these resources. So our ideology is people-centered. Our ideology is one which believes in the ideal that if the Zambian people play an active role in the development of this country, we can deal with the issues of poverty, we can deal with the issues of inequality, we can deal with all the social and economic problems that have beset this country since 1964.
You've spoken to the fact that you want to see an economy where the Zambian people benefit from the natural resources that we've been endowed with.
Yes.
Do you say, as it stands, we are not benefiting from the natural resources that we have? Are the Zambian people benefiting?
We wouldn't have been dealing with the staggering figures of poverty if Zambians were benefiting from this economy. You know, we wouldn't have been dealing with the staggering figures of unemployment if Zambians were benefiting from this economy. What you see on the ground is clear evidence that the Zambians are on the periphery of the economic activities of this country. Show me any large mining company that is owned by a Zambian. There is none. Show me any largest business which is owned by a Zambian. There is none. Show me any big mall around Lusaka here, even the Copper Belt, that is owned by the Zambian. There is none. Show me any biggest manufacturing company in this country that is owned by a Zambian or a group of Zambians. There is none. It therefore means that all the means of production that drive this economy are not in the hands of Zambians. And it therefore goes to show, and it follows. You don't even have to be a rocket scientist, that if you don't own this economy, you can't be the primary beneficiaries of this economy.
You were once the Secretary General for the Patriotic Front, and you had that opportunity to fix this, of which we didn't see. Why would you say you would do it differently now that you are, when given a chance to become a president?
Development is a process. It is a process. If you look at the first 2-3 years of Michael Sata's era, you actually come to discover that we had started making some strides. You know, for example, I'll tell you that Michael Sata decided that all the small-scale extracted minerals like emeralds will no longer be sold outside this country. They'll be marketed here. They'll be auctioned here. And before we came up with that idea, we were told, no, it is impossible. So we're getting our emeralds, being shipped to India and other countries, for marketing.
But who said it's impossible?
Okay. Well, those people that we found, the people that we found in government, they said, no, it is not possible, sir. And Michael said, we are going to do it, and we'll do it differently. And we had begun to do it. So I'm very clear myself in my mind, having worked with men like Michael Sata, starting from Lusaka City Council up to the time when I was with him in government, that if that man had been given a longer lease of life, Zambia would have been a different country today. The infrastructure development that you see today, road infrastructure, I wrote the first speech of Mr. Sata to Parliament, the opening of Parliament, and I was seated with him, and he said to me at his house on Omero Mumba Road, he said, you know what we are going to do? We shall begin first by dealing with the issue of roads. And he started giving me the list of roads. And I looked at him and I said, sir, how do you know all these roads, And it was not like he was reading from a piece of paper. It was all being chained out from his mind. And he said to me, Winter, I've traveled, around this country, and I know exactly where these roads are, and I know what is the problem with this country. So the road infrastructure that you see today is the brainchild of Michael Sata. Because he believed that if we are going to have inter-district roads, if we are going to have inter-provincial roads, then it would be easy for us to introduce a marketing strategy where you don't have to bring your groundnuts from Chipata to Lusaka for sale. You would actually grow the groundnuts in Eastern Province and sell in Eastern Province because you have access roads. So I have no doubt, that this can be done. I've been there before, and I think I'll be there one day.
Before maybe I ask my colleague to come in, you've mentioned the fact that Mr. Sata had this vision, and if I recall very well, it was during the time of when Michael Sata came into office that we went on the market to borrow for this investment, which has landed us now to being over-indebted, because at that particular point, I might not quote the figures correctly, but I think the debt situation for the country was around it should have been 3 to 4 billion, but during that time of Mr. Sata's 3 years in office, it shot to about 8 billion United States dollars, and those resources were borrowed for the investment in that road infrastructure. Yeah. Now today we are grappling with the issue of debt, which of course started in the Patriotic Front administration through the reign of Mr. Michael Chilufya Sata.
Don't be cheated. Don't be cheated and don't be gullible. There is no country in this world which does not borrow. Do you know that the Americans owe the Chinese $3 trillion US? Okay? The Americans today owe the Chinese $3 trillion. After the Second World War in 1945, the European countries owed the United States $12 billion US. So there is no country that does not borrow. Argentina owes the IMF $57 billion US. So don't be cheated about this balance of, oh no, IMF borrowed, PF borrowed and PF borrowed. UPND itself is borrowing. And you can't roll out your road infrastructure development from your domestic resources. You have to borrow. So borrowing is not what is the problem. How you use the borrowed money is the problem. So I think Michael was a very good leader, very wise leader, and he borrowed for a purpose. That's why today we are able to traverse the country on good roads, some of them which are falling apart, not because Michael borrowed, but because there is also this element of corruption in the road infrastructure development.
And I just take you back a bit back. You earlier alluded to the fact that development is a process. Maybe the UPND will say that they're not yet doing well in the mining sector, but they are involving citizens in development through the Constituency Development Fund, which you said is one of your ideologies where citizens should participate. Don't you think that's something which they should be given a score?
Listen, I'll tell you. Again, I'll tell you that I've been there before. Okay, so when I listened to HH saying that CDF is going to change, this country, it is something that I find laughable. Okay, I'm not an advocate of CDF myself. I opposed it during the time when I was in PF. I continue to oppose it today, and I can also tell you that that CDF is a bedrock of corruption. What HH has done is to transfer corruption from Lusaka to the districts. What HH has done is to transfer corruption from those that are dealing with these funds here in Lusaka and transfer that to the MPs in the constituencies.
We have been told the funds will be audited to ensure that there's no corruption, or that those who are
who says that auditing is what prevents corruption? Auditing comes after corruption has already taken place. That's what the auditing does.
But don't you think it is a good thing that they've said they will be auditing to ensure that whatever loopholes are there are closed?
Every penny that comes from the treasury is audited. So that's not an argument. The argument here is not about auditing or not auditing. The argument is that if you have 28 million kwacha, or now it says it's 28.7 million that is going to roll out. If you have that, why do you want to give it to a small committee of characters appointed by the MP, who may be his relatives, and his wife as a member of the committee, and his nephew, his kith and kin? Why don't you give that money to the local authority? The driver of development at the district level is the local authority. It's the district council. That's the local government I know myself. That's the decentralization that I know myself. Why do you want to create another organ at the district level, at the constituency level? Why do you want to create another district operational organ at the constituency level and leave out the district?
So how best do you feel it should be handled, since you have said that
it must be given? I've argued time and time again. I argued, that money must go to the local authority. But you know, the problem with third world countries, you know, is this, that we can't generate our own ideas. Okay? We can't generate our own ideas. If we were given an opportunity, you know, to copy how God created a human being, it would have been very good copycats. It would have been very easy for us. Do you know that they have constituency development fund in Kenya? You know, and they have constituency development fund, you know, in other countries. So we copied it from there, not because it does work, but because, you know, somebody somewhere told us this is what you do. You know, if you want development, if you want to engineer development at district level and constituency level, give the money to the local authority. That's where you have the engineers. That's where why do you go to the council and use their own engineers? Why do you go to the council and use their accountants? Why do you go to the council and use their own money, use their management, and don't give them the money? What, I mean, what logic? It just doesn't stand to logic. Okay? What you are saying is that this organ called the Constituency Development Fund has no capacity to engineer development. What has the capacity to engineer development is the local authority itself. That's where the experts are. So give the money to the local authority. That was my argument in, you know, in PF. That is still my argument today. Let me just add. You know, where do you find any meaningful development? Who can point at any meaningful development that has, you know, arisen or that has been generated by this CDF? Hardly anything to admire around the country. Okay, it just shows you that the concept doesn't work.
Are you not happy that skills development centers are now full because young people in community could not afford, are using CDF to go back to those skills that will help them improve in life?
You know, let's get serious about this country for once. You know, let's stop joking. Okay, you have a vocational training center, a vocational skills training center in every district, left by KK. If you go to Solwezi, you will find the Solwezi, I think it's called the Solwezi vocational training, you know, no, trades school. Here in Lusaka, you'll find one along Bama Road. Okay, Lusaka Trade School. It used to be called Lusaka Trade School. I think it has changed now to a longer name. You go to Livingstone, you find a trade school. You go to Chipata, there is Chipata Trade School. There are trade schools that were set up by Kaunda to provide skills. When I was Minister of Justice and SG for PF, I called a meeting of the principals from these trade schools. And I asked them, when we had some collaboration with the Chinese government, I asked them a question, you know, if you gave us 50 slots for youths every year, and would pay for those, you would pay tuition fees in full, you know, they said to me, in fact, we can give you more than that, because our enrollment capacity is only at 40%. So if you want skills development, give the money to these trade schools. Give the money to these trade schools.
That's what they're doing. We do have the constituency development fund.
Sorry?
I'm saying this is what they are doing through CDF, but before we go to that, maybe we can pick that call.
Oh, we seem to have lost that call. Please do call us back. And just before you continue your thought, Mr. Kabimba, we also have another comment from one of our viewers on Facebook.
Yes.
Mr. Chris Banda, who's actually following and says you have some good points, but they have a question saying, what causes political parties not to fulfill what they promise, Mr. Kabimba? Do we expect the same from the EF? What guarantee do you give us?
What causes a mechanic not to fix a motor vehicle is using wrong spanners. That's the answer. So if you're a mechanic and you are using a wrong spanner, you will not fix the vehicle. Okay. So what causes political parties is using wrong policies, like we are trying to outline and canvas here. So wrong policies, like we see in the UPND today, like we also partly saw under PF, you know, cannot give rise, you know, to development. Doesn't matter, you know. Doesn't matter about, you know, how much, you know, English words, you know, you use. Okay, and this is what we have seen.
So as opposition political parties, have you tried to give some of these policies that can work to the government? It's not my duty. You know, my duty is to come and speak on behalf of the people of Zambia. If there is somebody who is watching this program, they can pick, you know, ideas from this program. I don't think it's my duty to start as opposition political parties
going around,
looking for the overall development of the country.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's not my duty to be going around the ministries and asking, Minister Odi, do you want ideas? My name is Winter, KABIMBA, I've come with the idea. That's not my job. My job is when I come
for him to finish his thoughts.
When I come to participate, you know, in a program like this, you know, and if somebody says things that are making sense, they can call me later and say, you know, you sound to have some experience, you know, can you please have a discussion? I'll make myself available.
Okay, we can pick up that call. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Fine, thank you. Tell us the name, where you're calling us from, then you can go ahead with your question, contribution, or submission.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
You are speaking from
I've heard in Dola, I've not heard your name, though your line is pretty bad. Maybe if you can just make a few movements and we'll be able to hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'm saying I'm Mr. Kabwe calling from Dola.
Mr. Kabwe, please go ahead with your contribution.
Yes, I want to send out your message on the panel. Mr. KABIMBA. Yeah, we are of the government and that. Now, we can pick on the correct part now because we are serious and we have to start with the same thing about. And now we have to use the. So, as much as what you are saying now is so, what is your government proof about the government so much?
I didn't even get what he said.
Thank you so much. Your line, Mr. Kabwe, was not really good, but I think from what we heard, please go ahead.
He was saying, which one is the correct party now? Because you've mentioned some things, you were in the PF, we did not see those things. We have the UPND, you've not seen them doing what they promised. So which one is the correct party? That was the question.
And then he's also said you do criticize the part where it was about CDF and stuff. So what is it that you're doing as a political party to gain the mileage for people to vote for you come 2026?
All that I'm saying, dear ladies, what I'm saying is that I'm giving my position about CDF. Not now because of UPND, but that's a position I took even under PF. Okay, that CDF will not engineer development, and it has not engineered any development. It didn't do that under PF. It will not do that under UPND for as long as they use the same, you know, formula of CDF. What is the correct way of doing it? My considered view is that the correct way of doing it is get that money and give it to the local authority. Finish. Is that a very difficult formula? No, it isn't. Okay, so I hope Mr. Kabwe is following. Yeah.
I think let's talk about the elephant in the room, the issue of load shedding as well as the late delivery of...
Before we go to that, the caller said, what is the correct political party? I think that question has not been answered, if I got him correctly. He's asking to say PF, you are condemning UPND.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, madam.
We're fine.
Read out on you that the three governors who had gotten the how to have failed to but now
your line is cutting. We can't correctly hear you. I don't know if you can change position. We are getting you, but your line keeps breaking. We want to get your question correctly. So maybe Charles try to change position and then continue with your submission.
Okay, can you get me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'm saying, on the news item, on the radio, that the man is the most of the youth who have tested this man of grant and failed to afford promotion treatment. So now,
Don't you see that another problem where they are able to invest money across the year, and some of them people to account for that, and we are not able.
Okay, sorry. I apologize for that. We had to cut you because we are unable to hear you. I know you've mentioned the fact that it is in Southern Province where a report was reported on one of the radio stations to say those who benefited from CDF have failed to account for those resources. I think that's the part that we got, but the question that you've asked, we were unable to get it. So please do call us back, make those submissions and contributions, and that question, we want to attend to some of the things that you're bringing out on the program. This is The Breakfast Show. And in studio today, we are hosting the Economic Front Party President, Mr. WYNTER KABIMBA, and we are discussing current affairs and a lot of aspects that is happening in our economy. Before the caller there, Mr. KABIMBA was trying to respond to the earlier caller who discussed, or rather asked a question about which political party then is right if at all PF and UPND is being criticized. You, as Economic Party President, he wants to find out, is your party the right one to take over office come 2026?
That's why I'm here. I'm here to market the policies of the Economic Front. What I'm saying is that I'm making a contrast, that if UPND is going to use the same formula, for example, on CDF, like what PF did, it will not work. Okay? And what will do the Economic Front do differently? Will scrap CDF. It's a bedrock of corruption. It drives corruption. It doesn't give you the correct results. It doesn't give you the development anticipated. So we'll scrap CDF. If I became president tomorrow, the first thing that I'll do before I even deal with load shedding is to scrap CDF.
And replace it with?
And send the money to the councils. That's what I'll do.
My colleague, you did ask a question.
Quite interesting, yes, because it seems to actually, time seems to be moving fast. I was saying we have the elephant in the room, which is the issue of load shedding as well as the late delivery of farming inputs. This is January. We've seen people complaining that they have not yet received the farming inputs in full. Maybe your take on the two issues, load shedding and the FISIP.
Let's give this a bit of the historical context. in 2021, when HH took over government, what did he say about farming inputs, if you remember? This is what he said. He said, you know, the issue of late delivery of farming inputs will be a thing of the past under UPND. He said that. And the goodness with the HH, you know, you just go back to the videos. You know. He's a very good man. You find everything about what he said and what he has failed to do. So that's what he said. Okay, he has lamentably failed to deliver farming inputs on time today. Okay, and yet he claims he's a farmer. Now I've never seen a farmer who applies decompound in January, February. There's nowhere, you know, where you can do that kind of farming. What does he do now? If you listened again to his last press conference, he said, oh, just wait, next year, meaning 2023. Next year, you know, we shall do it better. You know? So he's hoping that the next farming season will not come. It will come. And you still find him, you know, unprepared. So the point is that there's no competency in the UPND government to deliver on its campaign promises. That we have been able to see, at least in the last 15, 16 months.
Now, some stakeholders have attributed that. Yes, some stakeholders have attributed this to maybe the changing of suppliers. Do you think it's necessary, or what is your view on the changing of suppliers according to each government that comes? Should suppliers be changed as per government?
Oh, well, if you are going to change suppliers and you are bringing in suppliers that are more competent than the past suppliers, that is fine. I don't have a quarrel with that. But if you are going to change suppliers and end up in this fiasco that we are in, then that decision is bad. We know that he's trying to empower his own members, you know, to supply. Look at what the mess he has created, you know, with the availability of drugs in hospitals. All that is because of the change of suppliers. As far as HH is concerned, everybody who is doing business, you know, in Zambia today must be PF. Okay? So all of them must go. If he had his way, he would have his own military today and retire everybody who is in the military. If he had his way today, he would have a completely new cadre of police officers. Okay? If he had his way today, you know, I'm sure you would want all of us to go to another country and bring in his own, you know, human
Quite
beings
interesting.
to come and govern.
So I'm sure you can continue your thought after this
Okay.
caller. Hello, good morning.
Morning, how are you?
We are fine. How are you? Kindly tell us your name, where you're calling us from, as well as your contribution.
My name is Sue. I'm calling you from Mon.
It's good to know that Monza is watching. Please go ahead.
I just want to ask Mr. KABIMBA, ask him where the ticket return is going to take the ticket to country. Now this government the ticket, you know, what people is the ticket is the country. It is not with any other person. If you are going to the country, it's telling you the something that is happening right now. Can you kindly ask me to say where is the CDF stand right now? Because CDF stand is with the council right now. And this is the thing that we want to do when it comes to do power. We are telling you, Mr. KABIMBA, to say, when we ask you, with evidence, so you bring see better who left the country, when you bring the gift. CDF stand is with the what else do you have?
Okay, I know that there is no drug available for ignorance. You can't get that in the pharmacy. Okay, the man in Monze is totally ignorant. Okay, there is a CDF account. There's a CDF account which is not controlled by the council because that money does not go to the council. So there is what is called, sir, in Monze, a CDF account. If that money had gone to the council, you would not be calling it a CDF account. Okay? The council is used primarily and invariably to evaluate you know, the components of the projects. They're just used as a tool. They don't control the amount, you know, that is there. So you are not right, sir. That is not what is happening. And hence, you know, my position, you know, that CDF is a wrong concept to attempt to bring about development at the constituency level and in the district. That's the position I take.
The president for the Economic Front Party is joined us in studio this morning, and of course we are discussing a lot of pertinent matters that pertain to you, the viewer out there, and how is it that the Economic Front Party would do it differently. I know the biggest elephant in the room is the aspect of load shedding. I know this one is affecting everyone, and in 2015, 2016, I know we did see an aspect of what we are experiencing now during that period, which led to the Patriotic Front administration doing some investment in the energy sector. The question that we are asking this morning, is this investment the right investment? They did, because 7 years down the line, we are back to this. Before we can go to give the president a chance to respond to that, we will pick up this call. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Madam Secretary.
Fine, thank you, sir. Please tell us the name, where you're calling us from, and go ahead with your submission.
I'm the market. I want to KABIMBA. And there are reports that some of the youth that are looking now for change are there to account. So I'm asking you what's the basis of helping Zambia
ask your question again. Your line is not clear. Please ask the question again. We want to give you a chance to ask. So please ask. Your line was not clear because it keeps breaking. So I'm going to give you another chance to just ask that question.
Okay, I'm asking you. What is the best way to economy? How did your government work to solve for financially apart from the grant to in this plan? What the plan was money for this time? Like the youth president is just focusing on now,
fine. You don't have to happen for now. So they are neglecting also what is the for this.
Okay, if I got his question correctly, I really want to hear what you have to say, but I have issues with getting you. But I think the second question, you're asking about small-scale miners. What are the plans that you have for these small-scale miners? You've talked to the part of not benefiting enough from the mining sector. Then the other question is asking is, the report that was carried out on one of the radio stations indicated the fact that some of the beneficiaries of CDF can no longer account for the resources that they have. Yeah. So how do you plan to empower the citizens with resources, if at all you want to do away with CDF? That's his question.
Yeah, I think
these two questions.
Yeah, you're right. You got his question. That's that's the way I got it also. Look, government works and must work through established institutions. Okay? Government is the same all over the world. And if you think that you can form auxiliary institutions to the already established institutions of government, you must be very sure that you know what you are doing. The point I'm making is this, and I want to repeat it for the sake of Mr. Sensema out there, is that the only way you can protect the resources of the government from the treasury is by giving those resources to an institution called a district council, a local authority. Okay? Because the local authority is composed of elected representatives of the people at the district level. And those people are accountable to the voters, the people that elected them. Now, let's look at the CDF. Who elects the CDF committee? Okay? If you look at the composition of the CDF committee, there are 3-4 people appointed by the MP. And all of them could invariably be his relatives without any competence whatsoever, apart from the fact that they have this privileged, relative called a member of parliament. Look at the other. So when you look at the CDF Act, everybody that is there is an appointee. So if you want to be democratic and you want to invest money properly, go to the representatives of the people. And in this case, at the district level, they are called the councillors. Give them the money. Let them go back to the people and find out what the people want at the local level. And then you will not have a problem of people running away with money. Easy. What are we going to do, with the small-scale mining? Small-scale mining can drive development in this country. Why? Because it doesn't require, advanced technology. Okay? It doesn't require, if you look at large-scale mining, you have excavators in these mining companies. One excavator that is able to do the job for 200 people. Where 200 people were supposed to excavate, this one machine, operated by one man, can do that job. So you are providing employment to one person, the machine operator, as against 200 people. Doesn't it make sense that if you invested or you empowered Zambians to invest in small-scale mining, you'll be creating more employment? Surely it does. So what we think the right way in the economic front is for us to set up a bank for small-scale miners where they can go and borrow money, because that is one of the problems that Zambians have in this country, how to access finance capital. They can't find the money. They can't go to these established banks and say, Peniko Indarama, what do you need this money for? I want to go and buy 10 wheelbarrows because I've got a mining area, in Rufwanyama so that I can, they will not give him the money. Okay? And yet, if you gave this guy $50,000, not even a bigger chunk of money, $50,000, you'll be able to buy, you know, one truck. You'll be able to buy, you know, a small front-end loader, you know, and that kind of thing, and go and do the mining. And because this sector is still labor-intensive, he'll be able to employ a lot of people. Even if he decides to employ his relatives, he will exhaust his relatives. So he will go beyond his relatives in terms of employment. So what will you be doing? You'll be creating employment, you know, at that level. You know. So our argument in the economic front is that large-scale mining does not contribute to employment creation. Small-scale mining contributes largely to employment creation. Is that very difficult for Mr. Agande to understand? I don't think it is. Except that he respects, you know, large-scale miners than his own fellow Zambians who are in small-scale mining. Finish.
Load shedding as economic front. If you came into office today, what would you do differently to ensure that we are not talking about 12 hours of load shedding?
Or to stop exporting power to neighboring countries. The problem that the load shedding that we have today is humanly created. Okay? It is not because of low water levels in Kariba. It is because HH has decided that he is going to get into business, you know, for exporting power to neighboring countries. You know, where he's taking that money, God knows. So this is created by HH himself. And he said it during the last press conference.
We're going to come back to that.
If you watched his press conference.
Of course, we will come back to that aspect. Let's just pick this call. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Morning, sir. Thank you so much. This is Camnet TV. You're through to the program. Tell us your name, where you're calling us from, then go ahead with your submission.
Well, this is Lungu calling from Mafinga.
It's good to know Mafinga is tuned in this morning. Mr. Lungu, please go ahead with your contribution.
Yes. Good morning, President.
Good morning, sir.
Yes. Looking at the question of the discussion you are having, yes, we might see as if the government, the Israeli government, is not living up to its promises, which is clear.
Yes.
Now, before asking my question, I wanted to just remind you a bit. I remember very well when you were Secretary General for PF.
Yeah.
There was a day when you were on the radio program and you were asked if the PF departed from their manifesto. And your answer was this: the manifesto is not a human document. That was your answer. Being to say we can move out for nothing we are telling people because things are not okay. Which makes me feel totally different from the UPND government that today. Now, my question to you is, when are you senior politicians going to start teaching the young politicians to tell people the truth which they are going even to achieve when they come in government? Because what I've seen is, from there, if you departed from your manifesto, even from your answer on that particular day, even today what is happening. Meaning even the upcoming young politicians, they will go with the same, tell people what they can't even achieve. So when are you going to start teaching the young ones to start saying the truth so that they live with that truth even when they form government? Thank you very much.
Mr. Lungu there from Mafinga.
What did he say?
Have a long memory.
What did he say? He said during the radio program. I said what?
During the radio program, someone asked you and told you to say you are not living up to the manifesto, and your response was that a manifesto is just a document.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe he's right. Let's assume he's right. The point I think I was making that day, if I said that, was that if what you put in the manifesto does not seem, you know, to respond to the social and economic conditions at the time, you know, you have every right as a government to review, but review it for what? Review it for the better. I think that's a context in which I would have answered that. Not review it for the worse, but review it for the better. So every economic program, you know, I'll tell you, is not cast in concrete. Okay, I wouldn't have a problem, you know, and this is not about the truth or falsehood. I would not have a problem if UPND said, okay, yes, we said that the inputs will be available by June, July, and sorry, you know, we had contingencies unforeseen, and we delivered in August. That's fine. That's a review of the manifesto. But the inconvenience is minimal. It's marginal. I don't have a problem. But it is a big problem if inputs that should have arrived in June, July, like you said, are arriving in January. And even in January, when they arrive, they are, you know, they are inadequate. People have to share one bag of fertilizer. That is different, Mr. Lungu.
Yeah, Mr. Lungu.
That is different. So there is nothing wrong with veering away slightly from your manifesto. What we are seeing with UPND is not even veering away from the manifesto, is tearing up the manifesto and trying to rewrite it. The problem that I have, you know, with the HH is his capacity, this capacity, this appetite to tell lies. That's a problem that I have with him. Okay? Because when you listen to him, you know, he doesn't even talk about policy. He just talks about lies. If you say the dollar shall to the kwacha rate will be 10 to 1, the day when I'm sworn in, and then, you know, today the dollar is 18. That's not even a question of a policy, because if it is a question of the policy, you come back to the people and apologize and say, sorry, I didn't see it the way I saw it, you know, at that time, and here is my next parameters. He doesn't even say that. The man doesn't even look apologetic. He's seated at State House and he says, has any one of you, is wagging, you know, his finger, has any one of you been load shedded here?
Hello, quite interesting, Mr. President. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, thank you.
Yes, I'm through to the Camnet Breakfast Show. Can you tell us your name, where you're calling us from, and your contribution?
This is the one calling from the state.
It's good to hear that the stage is watching. Kindly go ahead.
I want to contribute on the issue of Egypt. There will be a promise by the government and the Ministry of Statement was made in Parliament that we are not going to remove anyone from the program.
Yeah.
But we are going to increase the number of beneficiaries and those to be willing to be done gradually. But what is happening is that several people didn't receive, or maybe a little maybe they all played at the agriculture office for something like that. It doesn't work. Myself, I've been a beneficiary for 2 years. So I'm wondering why this year, which is my 8th year, they say you have to be 3 years on the program, but I only want to do 2 years and I'm not on the program. So I'm wondering what are they for people? Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for your contribution. Maybe a quick response to the caller.
Oh, that's Iteji, which is under UPND. It's a UPND constituency. And the man is saying, I've been a beneficiary of FISIP or under FISIP for 2 years. And today, for reasons that I don't understand, I've been removed. I'm not a beneficiary. In other words, he will not be able to grow any food for himself and for his family. So he is sending this money, you know, into hunger. It is UPND. Did the people vote for UPND to send them, you know, into abject poverty and hunger? No. So there is a UPND constituency.
They have been arguing that people need to graduate from the FISIP.
Yes, you don't graduate, you know. Where have you ever seen somebody gets into grade 1 today and they graduate the same year into grade 7? By exam. Where? Which school? Even at the university, HH stayed there for 4 years in order for him to graduate. It is graduate in the second year.
How long do you feel is enough for people to graduate under FISIP? How long do you feel people should be given in order for them to graduate under FISIP?
Look, firstly, you have to be clear. What is FISIP about? Okay? I agree with the principle of people graduating out of FISIP. Okay. But you can't, you must have parameters. You must have certain benchmarks, okay, that can tell you that this one now has graduated. In fact, it is the beneficiary himself that will tell you, I do not need FISIP this year. Okay? Not you. The beneficiary himself must say, this year, I don't need FISIP. I can stand on my own.
Mr. Kabimba, we've had people who've been on the program for 7 years and they've never come back to say, I no longer need to be on the FISIP program.
Because FISIP has not been designed in a manner where people should graduate. And that's one of the problems that I've had with FISIP. If you look at the PF Manifesto 2011 to 2016, we actually had put a bullet point there that people would have to graduate out of FISIP. And that graduation was deliberate. It was to ensure that you start off as a peasant farmer under FISIP, and then you graduate into what is called an emergent farmer. Okay? Somebody slightly above small-scale farmer. And the hope was that from that, if you had an agricultural bank, for example, you can graduate to a commercial farmer. So it was a deliberate progression from peasant farmer, emergent farmer, commercial farmer. So you can't graduate out of FISIP when you are still a peasant. How? Doesn't make sense.
It is the Patriotic Front that indicated to say, when you are on the program for 5 years, you need to be out of the program. It is not the UPND, but the Patriotic Front, of which you were the Justice Minister by then, of which you were the Patriotic Front Secretary General. And today the UPND is implementing what the PF could not have implemented.
How can UPND implement a PF, program? How is that possible? How is that possible? This man is saying, if you listen to him carefully, he is still a peasant farmer, and therefore he must not. He has not reached a standard, a point where he could, he could graduate from FISIP. So you are punishing him, and he's not the only one. There are many out there that have just gone there and found their names are not on the list. Okay, I was watching a clip in Chongwe 2 days ago, I think, where I liked the reporter, where people are looking at the names on the wall, and the reporter said they are not looking for exam results, they are looking for their names, as beneficiaries. Okay, so the point I'm making is this: that if you are going to say people should graduate after 5 years, then the policy must be such that a person who's been under FISIP for 5 years must be able to stand on his own. If they are not able to stand on their own, then they can't graduate. So you can't throw them out purely on the basis of the period that they've been under FISIP. I think that's the argument. Okay? So the man is saying, look at that man who is saying to have graduated. He's only been under FISIP for 2 years. So he says, how come in the 3rd year I've graduated? Okay? The person
so people for 10 years, even if they don't yet reach a point to graduate, 10 years on FISIP.
No. This is a policy. You must make sure you must make sure that it is benchmarked. You must make sure that it responds to the benchmarks. Okay, this is not witchcraft. This is people must think. People must drive it. Properly. There must be benchmarks. If you are going to do social justice, okay, you must have a predictable system. Okay. You must have a predictable system. If your system is not predictable and it doesn't achieve certain benchmarks at the end of, then that system is failing. Okay? So the argument is, do you want them, it should not be, do you want them to be under FISIP for 10 years? Yes. If they can't meet the benchmarks in 10 years, then they must continue under FISIP. But if your FISIP program is working properly, surely somebody at the end of 3 to 5 years must be able to say, I don't need FISIP now. Okay? They themselves will be able to come to you and say, I do not need FISIP now. Yeah.
The floor manager here was just giving me a hiccup that we've run out of time. Coming to the concluding of this program, if you were to sell yourself to the viewers out there in the aspect of agriculture, energy, education, and other sectors, in less than 3 minutes, 2 minutes of your concluding remark, what different would you do as economic front that will benefit the Zambian people? And of course, lowering the high cost of living. I know this has been a topical issue. Everyone is feeling the inch. So if you were to do things differently, how would you lower the cost of living for the Zambian people?
I've spent the whole of this 1 hour to sell myself. I thought that's what I was doing.
Because you still have others who are calling and opposing.
But let me say this. Let me say this. I read something, was it yesterday or the other day in one of the tabloids, where an organization, I can't remember the name of the organization, was saying, you know, can the government provide us with the cold rooms where we can store our agricultural produce? Okay, if you look at if you look at what happens at Soweto, and I'm sure it's not only Soweto, it's Lubama market, it's Chimwemwe market, you know, in Kitwe and many other markets. If you look at the kind of wastage of our agricultural products, tomatoes, you know, maize, you know, and whatever, you know, but that are perishables, is actually saddening. Okay? And my view, and I agreed with this, you know, with this organization, because that has always been my view, that if the government wants to help small-scale farmers, they must put up cold rooms, you know, at a place like Soweto, so that if you deliver your 20, 30 boxes of tomatoes and you are not able to sell your tomatoes, you know, to completely deplete your, you know, your stock at the end of the day, you must have a cold room where you can go and leave that tomato and maybe pay a nominal rental and come back tomorrow. What is happening now is that you can't make small-scale farmers again graduate from where they are. Because at the, you know, they deliver a box of tomato, I can't remember the figures, but let's assume it is 20 kwacha. You know, by the end of the day, at 17, 18 hours, they have to sell that box of tomato at 1 kwacha. because they have no storage facilities. Okay? Is that very difficult for government to do? Okay? So as economic front, we have policies in all these, you know, areas, you know, of agriculture. I've touched on a small-scale mining, you know, contrasted it with large-scale mining. I can, you know, take you to education. Free education, you know, is right, but the way UPND is doing it is wrong. Why? Because they are not starting with the building of schools. If I were president myself, I would say to the Zambian people, the first 2 years, we are going to expand space in schools, primary school and secondary school. So please give us the first 2 years so that we can construct as many schools, you know, as possible. Third year, then we can start getting, you know, enrollment, you know, at primary school and the secondary school level. So you have to do some projection. Okay? You can't go and get 100 pupils, you know, in one small space for 40 pupils and start screaming to the high heavens that this is free education. Because even a teacher can't, you know, the prescribed rate of teacher ratio, you know, by the World Bank is 1 to 42. One teacher must teach a maximum of 42 pupils, not 100. Where does he get the capacity? So the slow learners will continue, you know, remaining behind. So what education, you know, is that? So even that policy cannot work. And when we say this, then they say, no, we don't like HH, you know. We don't have to fall in love with HH. He asked for a vote himself, so let him do the right thing. Come on.
Quite interesting. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. But thank you very much for our viewers for joining us, those who called and those who left us messages on Facebook. And thank you very much, Mr. KABIMBA, for coming through and discussing this pertinent national issues.
We will call back on you. I know a lot of people have been left with a lot of questions. I've seen on our Facebook page quite a number of questions there that could not have been attended to due to time. So next time we will invite Mr. WYNTER KABIMBA back on set, and we hope we can give him enough time to just explain some of the things he has done today.
You know, that's it from us for today. But do remember to watch the Camnet Business Breakfast Show tomorrow. But from us, it's have a wonderful Thursday.